Mr. President, one of the things that I enjoy doing in my duties in the U.S. Senate is to come down each week to recognize somebody special in my state, somebody who's made a difference for their community, somebody who might not get the attention that people get in the press or in other areas, but someone who's really made an impact. And I like to call that person our Alaskan of the Week. And you know, right now, what's been happening in Alaska, it's a very special time. Our state, in many ways, is shrouded with myth and mystique. We certainly have, I believe, the most beautiful state in the country. And there's a lot of excitement that happens, a lot of special things. Just last week, we had 60 mushers who were being pulled by dog teams, dozens of dogs, these great athletes, as we call them, nearly 1,000 miles through some of the harshest landscapes and some of the harshest climates when we just finished the Iditarod, the last great race. So we want to encourage people watching on TV, people in the gallery, to come on up to Alaska. You'll love it. It'll be the trip of a lifetime. Come see the Iditarod next year, the last great race. We just finished that up last year. And it's a great time to be in Alaska. It's still winter, of course. Time to ski and snow machine. Still cold, lots of snow, but the sun's now really coming out high in the sky. And of course, in Alaska, there's hockey. Hockey. We love hockey. Now, we all know it's a tough and competitive sport, but it certainly fits right into the ethos of my state. All across the state, kids, adults play hockey. Boys, girls, men, women, indoor, outdoor rinks, ponds, lakes, skate up, take to the ice. Now, however, as many parents know who are involved in hockey, gear can be very expensive. Actually, hockey can be very expensive. Many kids and adults can miss out on this great sport in my state because of the costs. So, Mr. President, I'd like to introduce you to Anchorage resident Carlos Gomez, who is our Alaskan of the Week, who has dedicated an extraordinary amount of his time and his life to try to make sure that all kids in my state, boys and girls, from all walks of life, get to play hockey, like so many else do in Alaska, no matter if they can afford it or not. So let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Gomez, Carlos, because he's not one to brag about himself, like most Alaskans of the Week, unsung hero, doing so much for the community, and his impact on hockey, but particularly for the youth of Alaska, is remarkable. Remarkable. In many ways, his story is truly a classic story of the American dream. Him and his family. So Carlos was born in California. When he was 10, he and his brother went to live with an aunt in San Diego, and his wife Dahlia was born in Colombia and then moved to Alaska, also with an aunt, when she was just 7 years old. Carlos received a scholarship from the University of California, San Diego, but had to drop out, cut his studies short because the strain of both going to school and providing for his family, contributing enough for his family, was very difficult. He ended up in Alaska in 1972 to work as an iron worker, where he helped build our state. We were building the Alaska pipeline during that time, huge, exciting time in the state, and he met his wife, Dahlia, as I mentioned. They settled down in a modest home in Airport Heights in Anchorage and began to raise a family. And they had 3 wonderful kids. His daughters, Monica, Natalia, and his son, Scott. All of them great, bright kids. One of them, Scott, who we in Alaska simply call Scotty, and I'll get to that, had amazing athletic talents. When Scotty was just 4 years old, Carlos took him to his first hockey game. So Scotty wanted to try it himself. Soon, the young boy was hooked and wanted to play hockey as often as he could. And he was good. The problem, although they weren't poor as a family, they didn't have the extra money for all the equipment and the expense that hockey requires. So the Anchorage Boys and Girls Club had a program that loaned out hockey equipment, hockey gear. They helped utilize that. But as Scotty grew, he needed more equipment. And he stayed focused on hockey. So soon Carlos, our Alaskan of the week, became so involved in youth hockey and had such a heart for the youth who wanted to play hockey in Alaska but had difficulty affording it. He became this master fundraiser throughout Alaska for the sport, not only for his son, but for all the kids in the community who wanted to play hockey across the city. So, fast forward to 1998. Scotty, the son, 4-year-old, playing hockey on ponds in Anchorage, is selected by the New Jersey Devils as their first-round draft choice. First Latino ever drafted to be in the first round of the NHL draft. Scotty went on to become an All-Star, a Stanley Cup winner, a recipient of the Calder Trophy as the league's Rookie of the Year, all in his first NHL season. Not bad for a little kid from Anchorage. All before he turned 21. He went on to win another Stanley Cup and later played for the New York Rangers, the Montreal Canadiens, the San Jose Sharks, Florida Panthers, St. Louis Blues, and he even chose to return home to Anchorage during the NHL lockout to play briefly for our very own Alaska Aces. And as you can imagine, Mr. President, Scotty's quite popular and well-known in Anchorage. He's admired by so many, and his father is as well. Now, he could have stopped championing, as he's done for so many years, the sport of hockey at any point along the way, but what he did was he kept doing this. He kept working. He kept continuing young kids in Alaska to get out on the ice to achieve their goals, just like his son did. So Carlos, Scotty, and the rest of their family set up the Scotty Gomez Foundation devoted to that cause, and Carlos Gomez is still running that today. There's more kids like Scotty out there, Carlos said, and quote, "We are going to give every kid we can that opportunity that my son had." Mr. President, the foundation has done so much for youth hockey in Alaska. Thousands of kids across the state have access to gear and playing this great sport that they otherwise wouldn't be able to afford. And around Anchorage rinks, you'll find the dark blue and gold gear, just like our Alaska flag, with a ram. And that's the Gomez Ram, to help kids, no matter their background or experience, get on the ice and play this great sport. The foundation has put money into rehabbing rinks, like the one in East Anchorage, the neighborhood outdoor rink where Scotty learned to play hockey. And when the Anchorage School District dropped girls' high school hockey in the spring of 2013, the Scotty Gomez Foundation, Carlos's leadership, stepped up, picked up the sport for 3 years, and redeveloped it into cooperatives across Anchorage's 8 public high schools. Girls hockey in Anchorage is alive today because of Carlos Gomez and his family. Also, never forgetting who gave Scotty his start in generosity for hockey. The foundation has sponsored youth hockey events and grants for the Boys and Girls Club of Anchorage. That's really given back to the community. One of the Scotty Gomez Foundation's biggest events every year is the Last Frontier Pond Hockey Classic, organized by Carlos and his partner Mike Davenport in Big Lake. The event took place just 2 weekends ago, and it was quite an event. More than 600 hockey players showed up. Kids, lawyers, doctors, slope workers, former pro and college players, men and women. Counting everybody, more than 1,000 people from all walks of life came to the event to raise money for youth hockey in Alaska. It's amazing what one family can do to touch so many, led by Mr. Carlos Gomez. As Scotty said, quote, "It was my father's dream to give back. This is all him. He always just wants to help others." And if you're a kid in Alaska who wants to play hockey, Carlos Gomez will egg you on and make sure nothing, especially the cost of equipment, is going to stop you. Quote, "When I was growing up, he was like a father to all of the neighborhood kids who needed one," Scotty said. "My dad's a true hero." So thank you, Mr. Carlos Gomez, for all you've done for Alaska's youth hockey throughout our great state. We are honored to call you our Alaskan of the Week. Mr. President, I yield the floor.